Okay, welcome to day 5 of the Golang training, where we'll be looking at learning more about interfaces. And if time permits, we'll finish even testing in this session. Otherwise, we will do it for day 6. Now, I'm assuming that all of you all have already got your program running. Okay. What we will be seeing is I had pasted a reference program. I had pasted this reference program here on the email as well as on chat yesterday. Okay, I'm going to use this reference program as a starting point to continue for teaching interfaces. Remember this code yesterday? I'm going to use the same code again. I will increase the font a little bit. My bad. And I will get the screen in the middle so you all can all see this. I will do a little bit of cleanup. Testing, go build, Hangman, get some word, works. Okay. As usual, please interrupt me the moment I go off the tangent or you have a question. Now, we have all got our program working and we are all very happy with the way it's working. But don't you think this should have a web interface? And don't get confused with the word interface that I just used. Don't you think that we should be able to play this game on the web also? Wouldn't that be cool? The reason for this, so suppose here's a question. Exactly the stuff that I'm seeing on the terminal. How about if I can see all this on a web page? Okay. Let's actually see it in action before. Right. Somebody's listening on port 12345. I'm now going to play this localhost 12345. I'm going to say start new game and I can see all this stuff. Now, pardon me for the formatting on this, but my HTML skills are probably the worst among the everyone in this group here. Okay. But let's see if we can play this. We can see this game. How about this? What do you think? Want to get it built like this? And you win. And here is the interesting part. I'm going to start this game again, not in dev mode, but in normal mode. Okay, without dev. That means some word has come up here. So there is a word here also which is different. I don't know. This is being played on the terminal. This is a different game which is being played here. You can see that the two words are different. Okay, and if I do this again, it will start another third game. So even these two games are being played differently. How about this? And how complicated do you think this will be? Without changing anything in my core logic. Everything should remain the same. I should be able to play I should be able to play multiple games on the web. I should be able to play different games on the web as well as on the terminal at the same time. Okay, so something like this. This is what we are going to achieve today using interfaces. Okay, So if I have shown you the end result, let's see how we can actually start achieving this. What is the thing that is stuck here? What will prevent me from playing this on the web? Any takers, any ideas what we can do? All this will remain the same. Placeholder, these are all initializations. What will change here? Guys, this is not a video recording, so I'm really looking for some help. This is what I believe is going to be our biggest problem. This printing should actually happen either on a WebSocket or on the terminal. Similarly, this is going to be another problem. Sorry, this is the console display, and taking basically rendering output and taking input is going to be a challenge for me. Apart from that, do you see any other issues? The logic is the same. So instead of uh, trying to directly get into the gyan of interfaces, let's reach the interfaces themselves. Okay, let's see. Suppose I want to print to console, but I don't want to have the hard coding of fmt println here. What should I do? I will replace this into a method. Let's say we will call it render. Maybe say render game. Okay. If I want to render game, what all details will I have to pass to it? And I'm just taking it from the details below, placeholder and entries. Is there anything else I need to pass to it? I don't think so. Okay. Just this particular method, render game. And I'm going to write a new method here, function render game. What is the data type of placeholder? String. Let me so that everyone sees the screen in the middle. And entries, which is a map of string bool. Maybe return an error, which is actually not required, but just for the sake of this thing. And so far so good. And all I'm doing here now is moving all these lines there. I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything. But suddenly now my render game is a method. The same thing I can do even with this, because these are the only two things. So imagine this. Suppose render game, if I'm looking at this logic here and I say render game, it could render wherever it wants. Or should it be dependent on the struct? If I have a struct for rendering on the terminal, then maybe we should have that struct. And let's come to that after I take the input. Let's sort this out also. Maybe let's say get input, and this should return me a string. So again, I'm just sorted on this part. And I'll have a function get input, which returns me a string. So I haven't done anything different. So far, so good. I don't think anyone should have any questions here, because I have just reorganized my code to say render game and take input.
Gautam, inside render game, there is chances printed.
Inside render game, there is chances printed. Okay, good point. What is chances?
It's a number.
Correct. What do I really need? Let me see. Maybe we can. Good point. We can just simplify this actually here. We have the what is the maximum number of chances we have?
8.
Hard code it to 8. Let's do good practices. And we'll define a global on top called where max chances int equal to 8. Good catch. And let's just do this. Max chances minus length of entries, because I know the entries doesn't have any duplicates. So I don't have to pass another variable. Fair enough? Alternatively, I could pass chances, but it's not really required here. So far, so good. Let us run this program and see if it works, or I don't know if I've got it right or wrong. Go build. 174 return nil. Go build. Hangman minus minus dev e x. All right. Okay. So far so good. We are sorted on this part of just spreading it into methods. Why did I spread them into two methods? So that I can have generic stuff here. So from the game engine perspective, this Go func that I have is my essentially my game engine. Okay. I can remove all this stuff, these 3 lines now. So because I don't want to print anything on screen here, it should all get onto to wherever the game result is, because this is just the game engine. So I'm going to remove this part. And again, so here what I'm doing is I'm just reorganizing my code. And I'll place them here. But remember this, we had done something here yesterday. Somebody had asked me a question about this also. So this is a loss. So here I'm just reorganizing the code so that I don't have any kind of prints in the game engine. The game engine becomes very, very generic. I hope you all are all with me. Okay. And now because I'm this, I want to write nice, good, clean code. So I don't really care about this part. So far, so good. Okay. What else can I write this? How else can I make this a little more generic? Because I want my code to be very generic. It should work for a terminal and for a web interface. It might make sense to have different structs for terminal who are going to print all this kind of stuff here. Like render game is very specific for a console. Even this part, the start of the part, the select part, it will be ideal if it is rendered properly within the how it's normally rendered, correct? The win-loss situation. For now, let's see how we can actually change this a little bit. So what I'm doing right now is just reorganizing my code. And okay, fine. Let's do this here. Type hangman term struct and hang on, let me see if I can simplify this further. We have a placeholder which is all created here, so we are all sorted. Do we need anything else? Word entries placeholder is all here only, so it's good. Right. Anyone remembers function receivers? Suppose I do this type hangman term struct and just sorry, and just leave this empty also. It doesn't even have to have anything in it. I can make this render game very specific for this terminal. And then when I'm getting input for this hangman, I can make this very specific for input. So now this render game is very specific for the terminal hangman, and get input is also very specific for this term. Any questions so far? Will render game now work here on top? Will this work? Can somebody tell me if this will work here?
No.
It won't work because it has to be called on a function receiver.
Yes.
So what should I do? Let me have this main function as is, and I'll just convert this, get the word also, and I will create another function here called play. Okay, this maybe this play will take what? Just this much. And word, oh yeah, of course, and word, sorry. And word. Word is a string. And I'll just create h equal to hangman term and call play h and word. Right? And then people please stop me in the middle if you haven't understood something, okay? H dot render game, h dot input, and my for loop keeps working out. Okay, so all this channel binal, all this stuff works perfectly fine. I'm going to just remove all these commented code so that we have lesser code to see. I select from here. Why print this also here? Why not just return true or false from here or timeout or something like that? But for now, just leave it here also. That's also fine. We'll optimize the code later on. And so this is now my play is my game engine. So now what we've done is just added structures to it to organize our code a little bit. And I'm going to see if there are some, there should be at least one compiling error. Kya baat hai? Hangman.dev ex still works. So far so good. Any questions? All I have done is just reorganize my code to a struct. And very interestingly, the struct has no entries in it also. It doesn't really matter because I've organized these as local variables. Right? Now look at this play method. It's actually pretty neat because it's completely generic. It is just working on the game logic. Nothing else whatsoever. Okay. So maybe we could return a boolean here and even remove this logic. and just say return true, return false, return false, because I've lost the game here. And process this here. I'm keeping it short for now. Y'all can definitely expand this to see which kind of error you got. So you can also return different types of error codes along with this also to understand if it is whether it is a loss or if it is timed out or things like that can be done. Okay, I will understood. For now, I'm just keeping this here just like this. And I will remove all these print statements. So what was the reason for trying to remove all formed println statements? Now this play method becomes my nice, cool game engine. Any questions so far? Do you want me to put the error codes also? Or will y'all will I'll do that as an exercise. I'll put this here itself. Add return an error with error code if the game timed out. Any question so far? All I have done is reorganize the game. I will test it out again. Okay. Now you must also be wondering by now, why the hell am I doing all this? Is it clear why? Can somebody tell me why I'm making all these changes to an already functional, fully functional program?
So that we
To make it work on web.
Correct. Because the game engine is going to be the same. Are we sure that the game engine now does not need any more changes? Because there is no println, it's just processing logic and returning true or false once the method gets over. Right? And now I have a struct in which I have specific methods which are going to work only for a terminal, specific method which are going to work only for a the rendering the game and getting the input. Okay. For the sake, and I think somebody had asked me this question, what about if we use multiple files? How about we create a file called term.go, okay, in the same package, and I'll remove all this terminal specific stuff there. Does it still work? Basically, I'm just moving this line. I'm moving all this code, which is very terminal specific, into another file. Both are, because both of them are in package main, all globals, everything else is accessible. No problems at all, right? Any questions so far? Now, how do we get it working for the WebSocket? Okay. The interesting part is, do you think I just have to implement these methods for the WebSocket and it will work? What are the things that we'll need to do for a WebSocket? And again, your WebSocket knowledge is much better than mine. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. What did I do? I went and looked up Golang WebSocket. I'm sorry, I looked at this. I actually did this, and I'm sorry because I don't understand a lot of details of how WebSockets work and all that stuff. So I looked at this example. Which one did I? Oh my god, which one did I do? I think I looked at it. It's a basic, simple echo example. I looked at this server. I'm going to paste this link on the chat, so it is available for everyone to evaluate at your own time. Okay. So what? Very quickly, what this did here is there is a main function flags.parse. I'm adding a couple of handlers. Okay, and I'm listening. And for all you JavaScript WebSocket people, don't ask me to explain this stuff. But this is just loading the HTML page, and then you are loading some stuff with input, output, and all that kind of stuff. I modified it. Fair enough. So far, so good. And there's HTML button, open, close stuff here for echo. Right? There is only a additional thing. Who can explain to me what is this upgraded version of WebSocket? I think there is something done for WebSockets for security reasons. Once you have that socket with you, you call upgrade and you will get that socket connection, and then just to send it read message and write message. So effectively, if I want to just read message from a socket, that is what I'll do in get input. And if I want to write message from the socket, I will do write message. Fair enough. And then you have this listeners. Now for this, we will also have to look at a little bit of understanding how web requests work in Go. My second part of cheating. So this is only in the essence of saving time, because I'm not actually interested in the how it works on the WebSocket, but more to do with how this works. So I tried all these stunts over the weekend, right? But you will realize a lot of common things. Okay. So first, let me start from the bottom. Weirdly, this is my template. Okay, this template is the same one that you are seeing here. This template, start new game, play, and just show this. Literally, I have actually just done printfs. So that was all that socket code, which took me some time to understand, and you will probably do a much better job than me. Correct? I added a function. I added two functions. One is this the main root method. Okay, which is the home handler. So let me explain. I am not here to explain how a web request works. I'm assuming everyone understands what an HTTP GET is and how to handle these requests. For the sake of brevity, a router is as good as our Rails routing or Node or React, how you say your routes. And you have a handler function. The handler function takes an HTTP response writer. This is for response, and an HTTP request for sending the request. So when you just type the port number, it will execute this particular template, and this home template is just a variable below which has all this template execution and parsing and stuff like that. Okay, and that will actually show you that start new game. And when I click on start new game, that means this button, it is going to send me a request which is going to be handled by this game handler. And new game handler is very similar to what I did last time for our terminal, where I create this word, get the word, create a struct. I call this socket upgrade method. I call the play engine. Okay. And if I win, I write on the socket. If I lose, I write on the socket. Make sense? So far, so good. Any questions? There is a router. there is a method called render game. Remember this? What is also very interesting is it has exactly the same structure as, it has the same placeholder, entries and error, placeholder, entries and error. But in this particular case, it is talking to a WebSocket. And in this particular case, it is taking information from the socket. So there's a write message when you want to render, and there's a read message when you want to get the input from the socket. Any questions so far? So this get input and render game will be called on this particular struct. What is the name of that struct? And don't worry, I will get to that display connection soon. What is the name of this struct? Hangman web. What is the name of this struct? Hangman term. How do I call either one of them from my main? Where is my main? From my main. I want to call either one of them. How will this work? Because I cannot keep changing my code every time I want to run on the WebSocket, and I cannot change my code every time I'm running on the terminal. Everything is set for us except that I want. What is the case where you have two objects, object-oriented programming? You have two objects which have similar methods. You use them in a reference of a base class. Remember what is polymorphism? Anyone, can somebody tell me what is dynamic polymorphism or runtime polymorphism? People? Can somebody tell me what is runtime polymorphism? If you all remember your class in school or college.
At the runtime, it decides that which method of the child class to call.
Correct. Right? And if I have to ask you an example, are you going to give me the example of shape, triangle, and square? Most of you all, this is how polymorphism is taught in school. That you have a virtual class called shape, or in Java, interface called shape, which has a method called draw. And then triangle and square and rectangle will implement shape. And then you just take one of these child class references in the shape interface and call draw, and dynamically something will get drawn. Correct? We are going to do something similar. Just that, if you may have noticed, because I have these two common methods, render game and get input, it still works fine. So if I have to do that, actually, you know what? Let's just get the WebSocket one working first. And for the life of me, I have forgotten some of the. I'm going to, again, little bit of cheating I need to do here, because this is very, very new code. Web game. I like this method. You like it? I like it. I'll copy this. Let me paste it here and just try it out. Am I doing anything different? See, this was my old main. I'm doing a flag.parse, get word, initialize the Hangman terminal here, and just play with it. Okay, so I think this should just work as is. And let me explain all those details. Okay, now the code that you see on my screen is the web game, which is going to initialize the web game also, and also start the terminal game on the console. So the terminal game looks exactly like what we had earlier. If dev get word, create a hangman term, and if you play the game, notice that this is the address, so this is still a pointer. So pointer word game, you won or you've lost. And on the server side, on the web game side, all I'm doing is creating an initial router and starting the server. Okay. The difference is that in the web game, I have this new game handler which is using all that logic for me. The same logic. Any questions so far? Anytime you want to initialize the web, you need these packages in place. So I've got net HTTP and I've got Negroni. Negroni is a web server in Go. Net HTTP is required for all the HTTP references. Right? And the mux, Gorilla mux, is our router. And we are using Gorilla WebSocket. That is why these packages are in place there. My only problem when working with WebSockets is that I have different socket connections. And I don't have that problem in a terminal, but my terminal is console is always single threaded std out. So when I do fmt.println, it just prints to std out. If I wanted to print all the output to a file or take input from a file, I will need a file descriptor. My problem is with WebSockets, I always need a WebSocket connection. So what I did was I created this additional construct or attribute called connection, which saves the WebSocket connection in Hangman Web. Okay. Now, if I have created this, how do I get access to this? If there is something missing, you all agree that I have passed game, which is Hangman terminal. And when I'm going to call play from the web, it is sending a different structure. When I'm sending play, it is going to send me Hangman web. Since I have generic functionality, I am going to implement an interface. In an interface, I can define methods which I need. For example, which are the methods I need? Render game, which takes string and map of the map bool and returns an error. Notice my definitions
Map
there.
Map of strings.
Oh, sorry. Map of string. Sorry. Good. Everyone's awake still. Excellent. Get input which returns a string. Correct. Let me just verify if I've got my syntax right. Array of string, map string bool error and string. So I think I've got my interface right. How do I use this interface? All I have to do is play with the Hangman interface. Okay, play with the Hangman interface. So now what happens is, when I'm playing this part, I'm passing a pointer of an object. to as this interface. Okay, so this is effectively what we call in polymorphism as my base class, or in this particular case, an interface. And if these structs don't implement all the methods in that particular interface, it will give me a compiling error. So let's see if this actually works. Do you think it will work? It will give me a compiling error. I suspect it will give me at least one compiling error. Go imports. Wow, no compiling errors. How about that? Any questions so far? Any questions so far? If there is no compiling error, let's run it. And let us see if this actually works. Still working here. It seems to be working here. Right. Let's see if this works in actual mode. And let's open one more and see if I can play multiple games at the same time. How about that? And this game continues as is. What do you think of that? Without having actually explicitly got into interfaces, we came up to a situation where we need interfaces. This particular approach, before I ask, do you think that this is a different approach to handling interfaces? This interface was not decided or designed by me first. This got built. Okay, the other thing is that even though I have this interface and I can have these other methods though both the structs are different, they have different information in them, still they implement that interface. Did you all understand what I'm trying to say? That the interfaces that were made got implicitly defined. Just because my web interface also has another new method does not mean that it cannot be part of the interface. As long as there is render game, as long as there is get input, it will work. Let me just change this for a bit. If I just add any other method here, I will get a compiling error saying that these interfaces cannot use Hangman term because it has it does not implement foo method. Cannot implement Hangman because it implements foo method. So interfaces in Go are never decided first. They are decided in the end. This is completely opposite to what is taught in object-oriented programming, where you say, let's first design the interface from a top-down approach. you implement something called furniture, and then you have tables and chairs. And whenever you start talking about object oriented design, your thought process is always revolving around, oh, let's first design these abstract classes or interfaces and then drill down to the classes. In Go, we go bottom up. You first do the work you want. You want to render the game, render it. You want to get input, get input. And then you say, aha, so these are the common things and functionalities that are different among these two implementations. So let me add an interface on top and include polymorphism. Any questions so far?
Gautam sir,
Yeah.
I guess some logic went wrong because when we were playing that game, the characters which were right were also going into that entries array.
Which one? Where? Sorry.
Yeah, this third one.
Mm-hmm.
This is correctly guessed, but still chances are getting decrementing.
Yeah.
So somewhere logic went wrong, I guess, in sequence.
Which problem? No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your. What is the problem?
Like I is correct guess in a word, so chances should not get decrement. No?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, agreed. There is some. Oh, good. I didn't see. I just noticed that. Let's fix it. It must be a simple fix somewhere here. Okay, let's fix it. Good point. This is a game logical problem. This should happen to both places. Correct? I hope it was happening in the Hangman too.
Yeah, it was happening both sides.
Okay, good. Excellent. As long as there is consistency in the gameplay. Okay, let's fix it. Do we have time to fix it? Oh, wait, what a fantastic idea. Let's not fix it. Let's fix it using our test cases. What do you think? क्या बोलता है? Let's fix it using our test cases. And our test cases should fail if this is not fixed. I can see the problem already. Can you see the problem? Anyone? It will be on the screen. Actually, what is the problem? Where is the problem? I don't see it. Play, my chances are getting decremented. So I have a chances getting decremented at the wrong time.
I think in that else part where we are continuing the loop.
This one here?
Yeah, I think because when the word will not be correct, it will still do that thing. No. Sorry.
The damn cool logic seems to be right.
I think the problem is in the render game function.
In the
Yeah,
render
there
game?
we have changed some logic.
And there we have done max chances minus length of entries.
So?
Actually,
it's
what
the
Tejas
entries
said was
correct.
right, I guess.
The correct entries also get added in entries.
Yep. The correct entries also get subtracted from the chances.
Oh, that's why. Correct. The correct entry. We are adding everything, right? That's why we use past chances, right? Let's pass chances. Okay, so good. This is okay, now you guys tell me what change should I make? In my interface, I will have to make a change first, and I'll pass chances. Chances is an int, correct? Where all should I make this change now? In term, good catch, Anusha. Okay, and I have to make this change in the web also. Done. $31. What did I do? Oh, sorry, correct. No, yeah. Working fine now? Logic is fine? Chances don't decrement when I get the right word. It goes in the placeholder and it comes in entries. Okay? All right. Any other changes anyone sees I should have? Do you want me to try it here also? Oh, it won't work. This is something we should fix now on enter. If you just press enter, wait a minute, oh, there was some other character which came there. Okay, this is fine. Now it's decrementing on the wrong and keeping the same. All right. So that's that. Now let's do some testing. Before I get into testing, any questions on the code that we have so far? These are the 3 files that I have created right now. These are my 3 files. This is my main file with the game logic. This is very specific to a terminal. This is very specific to a WebSocket. Can we continue and move to testing? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so testing is not the automated testing is not my strong suite. So I will be looking at some references here and there. But in general, all the code that we write in Go must be tested and can be tested. Any file that we write, if it has an underscore test suffix, is going to be used only during testing. Okay, it will not be used anywhere else. So you can write these inside a test folder as a test package, or you can just write them directly wherever your code is. When it's trying to be built, these underscore test.go files are ignored. Rest of it will be built. We are going to use testify package for our testing. So actually, let me go to Golang packages. And search for testify. So by default, HTTP will have only HTTP testing package. Okay, this is how we typically write tests in Go. You test whatever you want and it will work. Okay, so a function like test absolute value and pass a testing construct to it and it will start working. However, we also want to create mocks. You know how we do mocking in other languages. Similarly, Go directly doesn't support mocking. So we are going to use testify, and that's because of using this particular GitHub package. Testing is actually this simple when you're using it. It does use the original testing Go package also. And if you want to test something, you can test it with equal, not equal, nil, asserts, all this stuff is your. It also supports what we call a test suite. Okay. A test suite is something that helps us collect tests together and keep them together so that it's easy for us to manage. We'll be using this test suite. Okay. So here is an example. If you have an example test suite, it is all it's going to have is it embeds another structure called suite, and any handler, any receiver which has with that example, you can run it. And when you want to run this, you just say the one initial test example suite and just run that suite. This helps us manage different feature testing by giving each features in a different suite. Okay. Stop me anytime you all have an issue with this. So let's start with the absolute basic stuff here. I'm going to copy paste from here a little bit. And then I'm going to delete stuff so that we understand what we are doing. Basic imports. I don't want example suite. Hangman test suite. Setup test is something that you want to run before every test. Hangman test suite. I don't have anything right now in that. Example. I have got nothing in this test suite. This is just the skeleton right now. Again, you just create a struct which has embedded suite in it. You have a setup test method which helps you set up something in case you need to initialize something before it. This is my actual test case, which is doing nothing, is just trying to evaluate 5 and 5, so it should be true. And finally, you have a test suite which runs. So maybe we just add this method below this. These are, so the test is the one which gets called, because as with all the testing package, any method which starts with the test prefix will be run as a test case, and in that we are running this suite. So if we just go and go test right now, I think it should just work, because you're just saying something, getting some test cases to pass. Okay. Now we'll start adding some test cases. Now tell me which test cases should we add here first. Maybe let's test for success. Test play success. Add something there. And maybe play a test play when user out of chances. So this is basically a failure. This is one is a success case. One is a person has run out of chances. What else? Test when user
Timed out.
Timed out.
timed out. I have to figure out how to test that stuff. I Anuj is help for that. When timed out, we'll try for something like that. What else? Test when user enters the full word. When user enters correct word, full word, or let's say complete word. And what else?
For an error.
When enters wrong word. Anything else? Okay. Now, when I am testing this out, do I need to run my WebSocket? I want to test the game engine. Correct? So if I want to test the game engine, I have to ensure that the render game and the get input, they should work. So should I test it for a terminal? Should I test it for the console? So the WebSocket is actually immaterial. What I want to do is test what? The game engine. Correct? So what I want to use, I want to introduce you all to mocks. I will type a mock game struct. So this is how we mock in Go. Okay. Just like we had sweet, I'm also going to call mock, right? And I think let me see if it picks it up. Yes, it picked it up. So Go mock is also coming here, right? So create this mock. Now, if I have created this struct, I also need to implement that interface. So let me try and implement that interface. And this is all standard stuff, which mostly you all should be familiar with how to, how to use mocking. Render game, placeholder, string, entries, map, string, bool, error. And with another method, mock game, get input, str string. Okay, so far so good. Now here are certain things that you should understand about mocking. Can somebody explain to me what is a mock in the first place? Very quickly. What is a mock? A mock object?
It's a copy, kind like similar to the actual method.
Correct. So this is similar to the actual method. However, I want to control the output. What it should mock. Correct? So I should have control over the mocking object. So whether this is not going to go to console, it is not going to go to the WebSocket, it is not going to take any user input. All that control should be through me because I will set up the fields in the mock object. To achieve this, whenever you use mocks, these are standard stuff that you will keep returning. Okay. This is supposed to return what? An error. Okay. Mock.called, and I'll explain this. Placeholder entries and return args.error 0. What does this mean? This is very standard stuff that we do for all mocking. This is not my logic. This is something that I have learned over time, and also that I'm referring to a file to see that I've not told you or something wrong. What this does is m.called just says that this method has been internally called. And it passes these two fields there. However, notice that when it gets this stuff called, it is taking these two entries. However, what it's returning is returning args error 0, which means that, and I'll show you an example of how we use this. Okay, especially for the input, it becomes very, very interesting. Args equal to m.called. Okay, and return args.string 0. Okay. Now I need to save this word somewhere, the initial word. I'll explain. I'll run through every line of this. Okay, let's try and run one test case. For example, let's play the test success because it's always the easiest. Okay. Now, when I want to play the success, I am going to call play. Correct. I'm going to call play, and I need to pass it. What do I need to pass it? I need to pass it this
Hangman.
mock object. Correct. Now, if I just create an object of this mock game and pass it, it is not in the suite, but I want to control it. So I keep all these mock objects inside my struct because I can. It's easier to keep it here. So let me keep a mock game as mock game. And I also want to control what I am going to work with. Oh, number 47. Oh, I have some half-ass method. So why is this important? Because I want the word to be elephant. Because I'm running a test case, I want my expectations to meet what is actual. So where will I set up? I've given you all the hint also. Where will I set up that my word, initial word, is supposed to be elephant?
In
My
setup
setup.
test.
Correct. Now, is it word or do I say sweet dot word is equal to elephant? Correct. I also need to do sweet dot mock game equal to that struct finally. So this is going to be that game. This is going to be that struct on which I'm going to call those interfaced methods. Any questions so far? I guess not, but once we start getting one test successful, then we'll run through the details and we'll probably have a few more questions. Now, basically to test this, what do I have to do? I need the result of play. Correct? Now I have a mock object also, sweet dot mock game and sweet dot word. Correct? And if I want to assert, notice I've added one more assertion package equal need some bit of reference here. When I'm asserting equals sweet dot t. Okay, fine. Certain syntaxes that are required. I want my result to be true. Correct? Will this work? I have no idea. So let's see. I know it won't work. Let's see what error it gives, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. So now I've when I run go test, it will build and test that out and say, okay, cannot use sweet mock game as hangman in argument play because it does not implement the hangman interface. Correct? It does not implement the hangman interface. And there is also some other problem. Render game has bool int, and this guy is just given this. So that is also I need to fix. So what is the basic error? I haven't implemented the methods. But haven't I implemented the methods? I did implement the methods. Now it's done. Undefined method assert. I think the package is missing. The assert package just got added. What just happened? Can somebody tell me what just happened? Answer is also there. Mock says I don't know what to return because the method call was unexpected. The reason we are getting this error is that I have used mocking. So when I'm mocking, I'm supposed to ensure and tell it what if this method gets called, what do I want it to return? When you are running a mock, you always want to ensure that you have control over these mocked methods. Render game and input are mocked methods. Notice that there is some input that I want it to return so that the test case is going to test only the play logic and not these two methods. That's why I have mocked. Have you understood why I have mocked render game and get input? The reason I have mocked them is so that I can control that input. So I do not want to bother whether I'm taking input from a console or I'm taking input from a WebSocket. I just want that input to work. So I need to actually write what I wanted to return. So I wanted to return on mock game, on render game. Okay, the render game takes 3 parameters. I don't really care about what it takes. Any 3 parameters. I wanted to return nil. And on mock game, which is the other one? Set input, which doesn't take anything. I wanted to return what I want to return.
String.
Got input return elephant. Good. Since y'all are answering, can somebody tell me why I added these two methods here? And if I, what is the reason for adding these methods is so that my interfaces, so that this struct has implemented these two methods, so my interface won't have an error. However, I'm using that same object to control my return. To control what I'm returning. In this particular case, I want to return elephant because I know that that is the word that is being used here to play. Sweet.word is elephant. If my input is finally returning elephant, the play should succeed. Correct? Let's try it out. Oh man, it worked. There is some help also that I can get. One sec. I don't know. Some verbose mode or something like that. Yeah. Oh, there it is. So in verbose mode, what's this? It passed test Hangman suite. So this is how I made a test case pass. How do I make a test case fail? Here is where things will start getting a little more complicated. Because the problem here is that get input can also take a character and it can keep returning multiple characters. So the get input, see, render game and get input. Render game, I really don't care because it's just returning nil. But get input can actually take characters also, one letter at a time. In this particular case, it took the whole word and tested it out. Okay. Let me run first this method. When user enters the wrong word, what should my result be? False. So far so good. Just these two basic things, and that should also pass. Test Hangman suite. When user enters wrong word, pass here. Okay. And if I keep this to true, and I return elephant here, the test case is expected to fail, but it is probably passing. So it should show me some failure here. Something failed. This test case failed. When I was trying to play with enter uses wrong word, it still showed me passed. It still passed. That's why my test case has failed. And it gives me all the details. Expected was true, actual was false. This is how you interpret a failed test case. It tells me the line number, it tells me the trace, tells me the test case, and tells me what was expected and what was the actual value. So far, so good. Sorry. This is basically the essence of testing, of how you write your test cases. Before I get into the more complicated test cases, I want to reach a closure. So I will also tell you all how you can see your test coverage. Okay. Yeah, I have a little bit of cheat sheet here. Go test. Notice my method, go test minus verbose mode, coverage profile, cover.out. So now it has given me all the coverage and said 23.7% of my statements were covered. I have a tool which will allow me to actually generate HTML out of that. So go tool cover converts that cover.out into cover.html. And if I open cover.html here, it will show me very well done up test coverage. Okay. So you can notice that, of course, the standard declaration is not there. We have not called get keys. Get word was not called. In the main function, the term web game was asked, but my play engine was completely tested. Can you see this? Everything was tested. Here. This was the result for the word. And this loop did not get entered, it did not get checked here because I have directly tried to exit from there. So this is an idea about how you can actually also find out your test coverage. It will get into all the details and tell you exactly which all files, how much was tested. So you can test for term separately. You will have term_test.go, web_test.go to test for WebSockets, test for terminal input and all. This is how we do test coverage. Any questions so far? And this is a very, very quick rundown about how we test in Go. Wrong file. This is a quick rundown. How we mock, how we test for codes. Any questions so far? I'll do a quick recap because I know that it's almost been 1.5 hours of what we have looked at. I'm going to go to Go tour and see if we've covered everything in an interface. Okay. Note, an interface type is a set of method signatures. Right? A value of the interface type can hold any value that implements these methods. If not, it always gives you an error that this struct cannot implement that interface. This was the essence of Go interfaces. They are implicitly implemented. So we never have to notice that in the structs for Hangman term and Hangman web, we never ever mentioned that they are going to implement the interface Hangman. Notice that I have defined this struct. There is no word called implementing the interface Hangman here. The interface Hangman was implicitly implemented by that struct because it conformed to these two methods. Not the other way around, like Java, where you actually define the interface and a class implements that interface. This is a very, very, very important distinction between how interfaces are used in Go and how they are used in other languages, because interfaces are implicitly implemented implicitly, right? There is no coupling between only these methods of an interface for that particular struct. Okay, this is actually under the hood. Let's skip that part. This is with nil values, nil interface values. You can read all these, the empty interface. Have you ever seen this part? This is not the interface. This is actually a type. So you can this particular data struct has nothing to do with the interfaces, but this what it means is that this is effectively your void star. Do you know what a void star is? In C, a void star can be typecasted to any data type. So if you ever use this particular type, this is not the interface, this is the interface type. Or they call it the type interface. You can cast any kind of data into this and you can actually access it using the dot type or dot method like this. Check. You can check if it is of this particular type or if it's of a particular string. So this is also overload, a polymorphic way of doing for data, and the one we saw is for methods. This is something that you will automatically learn while you're programming. Okay, type switches, you will look at this, and this is an example. Okay. I'm trying to see, I think we have covered basically all the basics of Go programming. This is effectively the end of our training. Okay, where we have gone through basic data types, the flow constructs, we've written some programs, we have looked at even concurrency, added the timer ticker. We have looked at the methods, function receivers, and now finally we have looked at the use of interfaces and then done some testing. Okay, so for the strong-hearted, we can continue playing around for maybe around 15 minutes of seeing how we can test even letters and one character, but it's a little bit of complicated testing code. For the others, we can end and y'all can actually break from here now. The session will continue recording. So if you already had a heavy session for interfaces and testing till now, I'm okay if y'all want to drop out. For those who want to hang on for another 15 minutes to see how we can play around and get inputs for testing this out in more detail, y'all can hang around for another 15 minutes. Last chance to ask me any questions that y'all have, not just about this session, but about last 5 days. Any questions? Anything which was complicated, which I need to explain again? This is the time. Okay, so for those who want to actually drop out of the call now, this is a good time. For the remaining, for maybe 15 minutes, we'll give it a chance of how we can actually add, characters, check character by character for effectively the get input part. There is going to be some sort of complexity in this, and I'll have to look at some reference code also, but we'll work it on that front. Okay, so for all those who are dropping out right now, thank you so much for attending. I hope you all had a good time. There is a lot more code that is to be done. I will work out some exercises which I'll just send out on email later on. along with the recording for this day 5, and we can take it from there. So for those dropping out, thank you for your time. For the others who want to continue, do you have any ideas how we can test for a single letter? Now, trust me, this was not my strength. I actually told Anuj, I don't know how, but you figure it out. So I'm going to use some reference code. I have a printout with me so that I don't have to keep changing screens. But he came up with some pretty freaking awesome way of testing randomized character inputs also. Okay. I'll show you all one and I'll let you all figure out the rest. Let's do this one. We're testing when plays out of chances. Right? So initially we have to do the same stuff that is there on top. There is no change for this particular method because I don't really care about how the game is rendered. This one, however, is going to start changing. This is the entire play is on this get input. Now, what we can do is when we are trying to send a return, this is completely in my hand of how I handle these return values. Okay. So let me park this particular part and go to get input here. Right. Now, this get input is something that I want to change. Args.called is great. But what do I want here? Suppose I pass a bunch of strings to my method here. How about if I pass string ELEPHANT, which are strings which are completely different, say ELEPHANL. Okay, so I will work around with these say Q. Suppose every time I have get input, it returns one of these strings, any one of them. I don't really care which one. It is never going to come into the play. Correct? So elephant will obviously fail. So if I want to try this out, I want to get any number of strings which come randomized from this. Fair enough? Any one character from here. So I can't pass it as a string. So I need a function to actually process this string. So I'll say random string. Okay. And from random string, I also want to see if I want to test out for maybe random words or random characters. In this particular case, let's say characters. The length is only 1. Now, can somebody help me implement this particular method here? I'm adding this one. Okay. Random string method. I'm implementing it. Random string, which takes a char set, which is character set of strings, and maybe the length, of course, the length. And it should return a string. Okay. I'm adding some concepts of randomization here also. I could just return the same string again and again, but it's no use. I have to random. So here is the important part. I have to return random strings because if I return the same string, same one character every time, my game will never finish. You understood the difference? Remember that if you repeat the character, the game will never finish. It will just say same number of chances. So I actually have to pick a bunch of random strings and ensure that you keep randomizing from that. Usme say if one of them gets duplicated, it's okay, but over time that game will at least finish. Have you all understood why I'm trying to take a random character set of strings? Actually, are people still there? I forgot to check. Okay, a lot of y'all are there. Right. So can somebody help me implement this stuff? Can somebody tell me how I get a random character from this string? Any takers?
We can use ASCII values. and we can iterate over them.
Golang random number. Okay, so just let's see this simple things. Let's take some random. Basically, I have the length of the char set, right? So if I just say rand dot, I think int like this, rand dot int, rand dot int, rand dot int. Yeah, something like this, rand dot int n, and it's that easy. Rand dot int n length of char set. So it'll just give me some number. Okay. From the length. Let's see what happens. And this would be my index. And then I just return that IDX.
Char set index.
Oh, sorry, sorry, my bad. Good, char set index. I don't know if this will work or not. Okay, we'll figure it out as it goes. Two changes that I have to make here is that when I call this get input, I will have to make some changes here. Correct. So now from here, I will actually have to. What will I have to do? Where I need to look at the reference code. I have a printout with me what Anuj has done. So wow, what's he done here? Okay, I will type it out. But what has he done here? Args dot get 0 dot func char string. This is where Anuj does some fancy stuff. Actually, hang on. We might not. Let's make this simple. Return random string. This is effectively I'm passing the function pointer. How do I call the function pointer? Before this, let's just try something simpler. So I don't even know if I'll get this right or wrong. I don't really care. Word. See, I have to have all this accurate, right? Word, character, because both of them are going to get called on the same method. So I just take two strings here. Boy. So if args dot string 0 equal to word, then return what do I return? Args dot string 1. Okay. Else that means it's a character. So I take that index of length. Let me just char set equal to args dot string 1 length of char set and return. I need to return a string. I have no idea if this will work or not. Okay. What do you think? So this arg string 1 is all the return parameters that I'm getting from get input. So get input return has arg 0 and arg 1, and this one has arg 0 and arg 1. So every time it goes here, it'll keep passing this, and I have no idea if this will actually work or not. This is my way of doing, but Anuj, crazy bugger, he does this really well. Simple things. Go import to get that rand thing in. Then there's some line number 82 where there is an I somewhere. Ish. Int. And then undefined rand. That's good. What do you think, people? Hi. Oh no. What do you think, people? Wow. Worked? Okay. I am not even sure. Oh my god. We didn't do the rest of the stuff, people. Somebody's supposed to catch me on these things. When user is out of chances. Correct? Is everyone with me? That thing worked because I hadn't called it only. I just said the mock and nothing else happened. Now what's going to happen is if my logic is right, inside play, whenever it calls get input, it's going to go there and return one of the characters from here and lose the chances, and it'll keep calling it. Yeah, cool. And how do we know that actually worked? Because this is now quite a complex bit of code, right? If I want to see how many times should get input have been called? People, how many times should get input have been called?
At most 8 times.
At least 8 times, right? There is some method which helps me do that, which tests that m dot called. Remember? Assert expectations. T. But I don't know. No, that just says if it's been called or not. Assert that the expectations were met. Okay. How do I know it was called? How do I know that this game was actually called? Let's try it out. I don't know. Sometimes it should pass, sometimes it should fail. Correct? Sometimes it should pass, sometimes it should fail. No, because I've got the same pattern for randomization. But it's having an impact. You do realize that. Oh wait, it worked. Expected 2 actual falls on which one? When play out of chances. So the game actually won. Actual falls. Understood this? When I pressed elephant, it picked up one of these all of these characters, and actually it became true. The actual result was true, so it actually passed. So it is working. And that's how you can test code. Randomization. I don't need this string for now. What do you think, folks? Can somebody complete the rest of the game and the test cases for me? And send me the link. Should I share this code with you all? I think that is enough coding for the day. Any final questions? What else do we want to know?